Welcome back to Our Story, His Glory.
This is episode 2.
I'm David.
I'm Rod. And today is going to be an interesting day. David's going to give us his full testimony here in a moment. But a couple of things, and I'm doing it already. We got our reviews and our critics from our first episode. And so on my end, I found out I fidget. So I got a lot of things about me playing like that. So today I'm going to be very calm, quiet, and collected. So anyhow, we are, like David said, Our Story, His Glory. We are Fresh Start Christian Sober Living. And August of 2020, Grace to Change, where we film here, called and they said they had somebody like to come over to Fresh Start to our Sober Living house. And I said, great. And so David came over. And David sat there. We have weekly meetings, and it was amazing. I went home one time and told my wife after about a month, I said, I've got this new guy who sits right across from me during our house meetings every week and just has his ball cap on and stares at me. I don't know if he's trying to figure me out or if he knows I'm for real or not. That was the beginning of a great, great relationship. David is the house manager. He's been with us almost 3 years. He's my partner in our nonprofit. He's going to tell you about his pastoral experiences and all that. But anyhow, today it's all going to be about David. David's going to tell his testimony. Next week, we're going to have a special guest. So, David.
Thanks, Rod. Yeah, I'm David. I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. He delivered me from the bondage of drug addiction. As I mentioned in our prior episode, I was born and raised in Highland Park, Michigan, to a drug-addicted dad and an overwhelmed mom. I'm the youngest of 4 children. There's a huge gap between me and my oldest brother. He's 9 years older than me. We have different dads, but his dad wasn't really in the picture much. So my dad basically raised him. And I couldn't really understand why their bond was closer than my own bond with my father. He had a closer bond to my brother. But so I experienced a lot of trauma in my adolescent years. I was around a lot of death. Before I turned the age of 10, I attended 3 funerals, all on my mother's side of the family. My grandmother passed away, my granddad passed away, and my cousin, he committed suicide at the young age of 15 by hanging himself. And so my mom had no other choice but to drag me to the funerals because I was very clingy to my mom. I was what they considered a mama's boy. And I was the baby of the family. So I could remember my mom telling me later on in life about, certain situations that transpired in the household because my dad was hooked on crack cocaine. Drug dealers used to come by the house and beat on the door looking for their money. And she actually had to go get a pistol to protect us kids. And not only from the drug dealers, but from my dad as well, because he did any and everything to support his habit. And I couldn't quite understand why my mom never let me play with like water guns, toy guns, cap guns, nothing, no type of gun when I was growing up. And when I became an adult, she said, David, there's a reason for that. She said, when you was 5 years old, I set you on my lap and I put the gun in your hand, but it was loaded. And so me being a curious kid, I pulled the trigger, bow, shot a hole through the wall. And so from that point forward, she never let me play with guns. But since she didn't allow me to play with them, I was very infatuated with guns. As a kid, I internalized everything. I was very observant and I was very silent. I paid close attention to everything, and I pretty much was a sponge. I absorbed everything that was going on around me. To get me to talk would be like pulling teeth. And since I had 2 older sisters, my mother and my brother, I kind of cleaved more to my mom and my sister. So my brother, I guess he wanted to make me tough, so he kind of tortured me, Now I think it was bullying. He bullied me. But, due to the lifestyle that my family was living and, the household was just a mess, I experienced neglect, abuse, sex abuse. I actually got sexually molested by a older neighbor. He was a dude. And, I want to pause for a second and say, if you ever see this podcast, I forgive you with the love of Christ. And so with that being said, I'm done from that. So, yeah, man, I experienced a lot at a very young age. And so when I turned 11 years old, I actually started smoking marijuana. Well, let me back up a little bit. So my brother's uncle on his father's side of the family decided to become a pastor. He answered the call. And so he started a church. Actually, the church was in his mom's basement. And the only members he had was my mom's friend, my mom's friend's children, and me and my siblings. And this guy was dynamic. He really had a calling on his life to be a pastor. And then his congregation grew. He ended up purchasing a church building. And we attended church on a regular basis. My mom dragged us to church, Sunday morning service, Sunday evening service, Bible studies. We were there. Every church event, we were there. My mom was an active member of the church. And I am so grateful that she did that because she planted that seed. And that's where I got to learn who Jesus Christ is and who he is to me and what he done for me. And so at the young age of 8 years old, I gave my life to the Lord. I got baptized. I sung in a choir. I enjoyed church. I enjoyed serving the Lord. And the seed was planted in me. And I'm forever grateful to my mom for doing that. So because without God and Christ in my life, I don't know where I'll be today. And so, like I said, he delivered me from many things. So as I mentioned, I experienced death at a very young age, a lot of funerals, abuse, neglect, abandonment, all these issues. So to fast forward a bit, when I turned 11 is when I first started smoking marijuana. It was an everyday thing in my household. That's basically everybody in my household smoked marijuana, was drinking alcohol, a lot of addicts was in my family, from my granddad, he was a drinker on down. It's kind of like hereditary. So it became an everyday thing for me. That was the first substance that I was actually addicted to. I drank from time to time, but alcohol I could do without. But weed was my first love. And I smoked marijuana every single day, and a lot of it. And that's where I had that addictive behavior. That's where it started. And so I remember in starting the 6th grade at 11 years old, I was literally wearing my brother's clothes, his hand-me-down clothes, and he was twice my size. I couldn't fit his clothes. They were so big that, my shoes was too tight on my feet, and I just wanted to take care of myself, and I wanted to be like the other kids that had all the latest fashion and things of that nature. So I gravitated towards the drug dealers in the neighborhood, and I started selling crack cocaine at the young age of 11. And I started off on the corner, and I experienced a lot of things. A lot of things came with that territory of selling drugs. I had some very close friends in my younger years, and actually it was 5 of us that was really close. If you saw them, you saw me. We were together every day. And we was just in the streets together every day, selling drugs, getting into fights, getting into shootouts. I can recall one time my best friend called me and said, "Hey man, somebody just shot at my house." So we found out who the guy was, and I had a gun at the time. Like I said, I was infatuated with guns, so I had bought a gun myself. I had to been 13 years old, maybe 14, and we found out who it was. So we drove to the person's house, and he pointed the house out. I'm in the back seat. His brother was driving, and I stuck the gun out the window, shot the house up, and then he said, "Oh, man, I think that's the wrong house." So I said, "Oh, man, well, spin around the block, turn around," and then we shot up the other house next door to it. Just the stupid things that we was doing. But the whole time, God has always had his hand over me. Although I was doing a lot of stupid things and was self-inflicting a lot of pain on myself and people around me, God never removed his hand from me. The Lord, and I always had a calling on my life. So, and these friends that I'm talking about, it was 5 of us. And I'm the only one alive to tell this story that's free. One of us is still living, and he's in prison for the rest of his life. They gave him life without parole at the age of 18 years old. And so I'm selling drugs. I dropped out. I became a high school dropout. But even in the midst of what I was doing, when I was doing wrong, something in my spirit would tell me, you need to go to church. You need to go see the pastor. You need to go hear the word. And so I pick my friends up, the friends that got murdered later on in life. I'll pick them up. We'll have crack on us. We on our way to the block to go sell some crack, guns on us. And they'll be like, where you going? Oh, we going to church. They say, what? Going to church? Like, nah, man, what you doing? I smell like weed. We smoking a blunt on the way to church. And I'm like, I don't care, man. God see everything we doing, you know. And so I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to lead them to church so they could hear the word of God. And, you know, I'm not sure if they gave their life to the Lord. I don't know, but I know that they went to church. So I turned 15. You know, I was selling drugs for many years, and then I turned 15 years old. I was standing on the block selling crack, and it was the night before my sister's birthday. And they pulled up on me, and I gave them some money. I was supposed to go out to a club with them that night, you know, to celebrate her birthday. They pulled off, and 5 minutes after, that's when I got shot. Bullet shattered my knee bone. I had 2 surgeries on my knee. Even when the bullet didn't exit my knee, the doctor said if it would have went like an inch further or something like that, then they probably would have had to amputate my leg. So they couldn't remove the bullet at that time. So it was a very painful experience for me. And so the week after I got shot, I'm laid up in the hospital bed, and my best friend came to me and said, hey man, I'm going to church with sis and them. So he went to church with my sisters and told me that pastor said not to let you out the house in 9 days, that somebody gonna try to lure you into their house and kill you. So, of course, I stayed in the house for 9 days. But after them 9 days was over, I had a bullet in my knee, on crutches, and back on the same block that I just got shot on, selling dope again. Excuse me. So I was really hard-headed, you know, just a troubled teen, and dropped out of school. I witnessed a friend get murdered right in front of me. I was standing about 5 feet from him when somebody walked up to him and shot him 4 times in the back. I saw that occur, and, you know, that kind of put me in the mindset that I might not live to see the age of 18 myself, you know, going this route that I'm going. But that still didn't stop me from doing what I was doing. So one particular time I was selling crack in Jackson, Michigan, and I got a phone call from my sister, and she said, bro, I hate to tell you this, but your best friend Sally got killed last night. And he had just turned 18. He turned 18 that January and got killed that March. And so I was a pallbearer for his funeral. This is the first best friend that I lost. I didn't really mourn when I lost him. I didn't cry. I didn't talk about it. I just internalized it. And so a year and 3 months after that, I got another call saying Mike was murdered. And that was my second best friend that got killed. And so I was a pallbearer for his funeral. And at that point, I really knew that the chances of me surviving the streets was very slim. So that kind of made me want to start changing and start making different choices for myself. So I moved away. I went back to school, got my GED, tried to get my life back on track, tried to get out of the street life, moved to Atlanta. I was doing pretty well, but I met a woman in Chicago and ended up impregnating her. And that's my wife, who's my wife today. Got her pregnant. I was 17 years old and had a son. I decided to move back to Detroit. Got back involved with some people that was, selling a lot of drugs. And a situation occurred where we had a hit put out on us and I had to leave town and I moved to Chicago. But I took my hustling mentality from Detroit to Chicago. And so there I was in Chicago, and I start selling ecstasy pills. I was doing very well selling pills until I said, I want to try my product, and I start popping ecstasy pills. And I got that addictive behavior, so I got hooked on ecstasy. But I still, and then I start selling crack again in Chicago. And like I mentioned in the last episode, I ended up selling some drugs to an undercover. I got arrested along with my fiance at the time, who's my wife now. She was arrested. My dad was arrested. He came back into my life after not seeing him for about 10 years. And I just told him, look, I just need you to be my extra set of eyes. And so he was there. He got arrested. My wife's friend who set me up with the police was arrested. And so while I was incarcerated, while I was in the county, they said, well, my lawyer said, well, you got a statement against you. The friend, signed a statement against me. She was released. After a few months of sitting in the county, lawyer came to me, said, unfortunately, your dad signed a statement against you so he could get released. So my own dad turned state's evidence against me. And it took me a long time to find forgiveness in my heart for him doing that. But I forgave him, thanks to Jesus. Long story short, I got released out of prison. I did the 4 years, got out. And it was just hard for me to adjust to just living normal and working a normal 9-to-5 job. And I'm looking at 2 mouths to feed because when I got arrested, my wife was 9 months pregnant with our second son. And so by the time I got out, now I'm looking at 2 kids and a wife, and it was hard. So with all the pressure and all of this stuff, and I got out, I start back popping ecstasy. And one night I got mad at my wife, stormed out the house, bumped into some people, and got introduced to the opposite side of the crack, which was smoking it. So I went from selling it to actually using it. And it took me down such a dark path. I mean, it destroyed everything. I mean, quickly. I became everything that I hated in my dad. Yeah, everything. I became a liar. I became a thief. I became a cheater. I became a manipulator. I was spiritually disconnected from God because of the drugs just overtook everything about my character. It just ruined me. It destroyed me. I mean, it's definitely a devil drug. That's one of the devil's schemes, is to implement drugs in people. And it's a bad deal. So after about 3 months of being addicted to crack cocaine, I checked myself into a rehab. I went to the Salvation Army, completed the program, but I didn't do it for myself. I did it because everybody in my family wanted me to get clean and stuff like that. So, of course, immediately after getting out of the rehab, I went right back to the pipe. And I stayed clean for a little while, go to another rehab, get out, go right back to the pipe. I didn't go to God. I went back to the pipe. And in my time of being off and on crack cocaine, I probably went to the rehab about 10 times. And nothing changed. And I believe nothing changed because nothing changed. I didn't seek God for deliverance. And I'll be right back into the same environment. So I try to stay clean. I get out and I'm right back up the street from the drug dealers. So the first sign of pressure or any type of struggle, I'll turn right back to crack. Until the last experience that I had where I really, really broke everybody's heart. I broke my wife's heart. My wife was battling breast cancer. We had a daughter that was born. She was a year old. and my wife was going through chemotherapy, and you know, it was so hard. I ended up relapsing while she was going through that, and on top of me relapsing, I took the credit card, I took the bank card, I took everything from her, and I broke her heart. I mean, I really ruined her. And so I ended up getting incarcerated. I ended up getting incarcerated for a DUI that I caught prior to relapsing. And I did 90 days in the county, and that's when I just surrendered. I just surrendered to God. I say, Lord, I give it all to you. I give you my life. I don't even deserve to breathe the air that you provide. And so I just want to live the rest of my life for you. I submit to you, Lord. And I gave God my whole being. I gave up my wife, my kids, my family, myself, my addiction. I just gave it all to Christ. And I did that in jail. And so upon getting released, I had these butterflies in my stomach because I was homeless. You know, that's what crack did to me. It caused me to become homeless, and I even ate out of garbage cans. I used to pick up cigarette butts off the ground and smoke them, and, you know, just manipulating people to get money out of them to support my habit and stuff like that. And so when I got out of jail that last time, I didn't have anywhere to go but back to the same area that I was getting high in. And so I caught the train. When I got off the train, I had the bubble gut so bad. I had these butterflies in my stomach, and I was just wrestling against not getting high again because I had reservations. When I was locked out, I said, man, it's hard. So I get off the train. All the drug dealers, hey, man, you out. You looking good. You looking good, Dave. You know, hey, man, I got them rocks, and come on, you know, I get the first one free. And it took everything in me. But not just me, it was the grace of God and the power of God that allowed me the opportunity to keep walking past them drug dealers. And I went and checked myself into a rehab, clean. I was clean for 90 days, and I went to a rehab. Went to the rehab. I did the program. I started seeking God's face, asking him to write his word on the tablet of my heart, and asking him to teach me how to apply his word to my life. And I just started serving God from that point forward, you know. And then my brother, he lived in Texas, and he reached out to me and said, hey, man, whenever you get out of there, maybe you should come to Texas. Maybe you just need a change of environment. And so I took him up on that offer. I moved out to Texas. I moved in with bro, stayed there for about a week. And I said, you know what? I want to start from the bottom. I'll go to a shelter. Send me to a shelter. I want to start at the bottom. And so I went to a shelter. I stayed there for some months, and it just wasn't a good environment for me. So I started seeking, you know, another opportunity to be around sober people and like-minded people. And so that's when I got the information to a Fresh Start. Met Rod. He's an amazing guy, got a great heart to help people overcome their addictions. And he introduced me to Celebrate Recovery and I started joining his church. I just dug in deep, man. And, you know, only God is the one who delivered me from all my altering substances. And I've been clean going on 4 years now. I volunteered in the media department at the church for a little bit over a year. I was the cameraman. Got ordained as a minister in January 2021. Went through training at Celebrate Recovery, became a group leader, facilitated groups. The highlight of my here and now is that I'm studying divinity courses, and I'm halfway through with receiving my associates in divinity. Got a 3.1 grade point average. Became a business partner with Rod at Fresh Start. And so life is good. And I owe all the glory to God. I give all the glory to him. That's my story. You know, once you surrender everything to Christ, he will change your life. He'll change you inside out. I don't care if you're a drug addict, drug dealer, convict, homeless person, you experience sexual abuse, everything. Christ could free you from all of that bondage. And that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you, David. It's God is so good. I mean, we talk about it a lot at the Sober House of how Christ has changed our lives. And I just hope everybody out there, I hope you have some sort of relationship with our Lord and Savior. It's what saved my life. It's what saved David's life, and it's saving men's lives at our house. We're going to have a guest on in a couple of weeks. Actually gave his life to Christ in the garage at the Sober House. Just wish everybody a great week. Find us here at Fresh Start, or you go on and find us up here at Our Story, His Glory at Fresh Start, or you can check us out at freshstart.csl.com. We love you. Have a blessed day. See y'all next week.
We love you. God bless you.
I've searched many years on end. There was none that my soul